We all like to think of ourselves as good people, right? But what if doing something good actually gave you a license to be, well, not so good later on? Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating psychological quirk that can turn our very best actions against us. It's a thinking error that kind of operates in the shadows of our own good intentions.
So picture this. You've just spent your entire Saturday volunteering at a local animal shelter. Or, maybe you're the one who stayed late all week to help out a colleague who is just totally drowning in a project.
And it feels amazing, doesn't it? You get that warm, fuzzy feeling of satisfaction. You've done the right thing, you've acted in line with your values, and you feel like a pretty solid, ethical person. But then, a few days go by, and a different kind of opportunity pops up. Maybe it's that little chance to kind of fudge some numbers on an expense report, or tell a white lie to a friend to get out of something. Or maybe it's a choice that helps you out, but you know it's at someone else's expense.
And here is the crazy part. That questionable decision, it doesn't feel so bad. In fact, it might even feel justified, almost like you've earned the right to do it. So, why? Why does this happen?
Well, this whole thing, this idea that our past good deeds seem to give us a permission slip for future missteps, it actually has a name. We're about to explore a cognitive bias that can turn our own virtue into a really dangerous hall pass. Okay, so it's called the Moral Credential Effect, and the core idea is pretty simple. We tend to use our past good behavior as a kind of psychological get-out-of-jail-free card for later, less than great behavior. We basically establish our moral credentials, and then we cash them in. I want you to think of it like a moral bank account. Every time you do something good, you're making a deposit. So later, when you're tempted to cut a corner, you subconsciously make a little withdrawal. And in your head, the balance is still positive. You still get to see yourself as a good person. So, how does this actually play out in real life? Let's get into some everyday examples where you can see this powerful and often invisible effect at work. Oh, here's a classic. Let's say you've been super diligent all week about sorting and recycling and composting. Then Friday night comes, you're tired, and you just toss a plastic container into the regular trash. And you might think, whatever, I've been so good all week, this one time doesn't really matter. And that right there, that gets to the absolute heart of the internal logic. That history of being a good recycler softens your judgment on the not-so-good act. It just feels like a minor slip-up, easily balanced out by all your previous effort. This happens in much bigger, more complex social situations too. Imagine a manager makes a big point of hiring a candidate from an underrepresented group. They've established their credentials as being fair, unbiased. But later, they might make a snap judgment that favors someone who looks and thinks just like them, without even seeing the bias. Why? Because that previous good deed created a blind spot. So here's the crucial takeaway. That first act of fairness, it works like a psychological shield. In their own mind, they're thinking, I can't be biased. I have proof, that earlier hiring decision, that I'm a fair person. That credential is used to justify the contradiction. Look, our brains are just wired for this kind of efficiency. First, we have this deep, deep need to protect our positive self-image. Second, we use past actions to create this sort of mental balance sheet. And third, we instinctively pull up those prior good deeds to reduce any guilt we might feel in the moment. It's a really slick mental shortcut that can lead us way off track. Now, while this whole mental accounting thing might feel natural, it can be really corrosive. Treating morality like a credit system can lead us down this slippery slope where our self-perception is completely detached from how we actually behave.
And the consequences are not small. This effect lets us justify behavior we know is wrong. It reduces our own accountability. It can mask our own biases from ourselves. It encourages us to be hypocrites. And maybe worst of all, it stops us from learning from our mistakes and actually becoming better people.
This line, man, it really hits home. Once you start thinking of goodness as something you can bank, your ethics are no longer a firm line. They become a moving target. Everything becomes a negotiation with yourself.
All right, so the million-dollar question is, what do we do about it? How do we fight this? Well, the good news is that just being aware of it is the most critical step. And from there, we can use some pretty concrete strategies. Okay, here are 4 really powerful things you can start doing. First off, treat every decision on its own merits. What you did yesterday doesn't change the morality of today's choice. Number 2, separate your identity from your behavior. Being a good person doesn't give you immunity from doing bad things. Third, apply your moral standards consistently, not just when it's easy. And finally, be brutally honest with yourself about why you're doing something. Is it about principle, or is it because you feel like you've earned a little slack?
At the end of the day, what this all boils down to is a fundamental shift in how you see things. Goodness isn't a commodity you can stockpile. Real moral integrity comes from treating each and every choice as a fresh start, a brand new opportunity to act in line with your values.
Giving yourself a pass because of something good you did in the past, letting your virtue become a justification for your vice, that is the moral credential effect. The real question is, now that you can see it, what are you going to do to overcome it?